All right. Welcome back, Derek.
Hello.
Thank you for joining. Just telling people right as you dropped that you were going to be taking some meeting minutes. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, my Zoom was just like full on crashing. So that was fun.
Yeah, I think that's me. Live streaming, closed captioning, I don't know, all of it.
The closed captioning looks beautiful.
It's pretty good. It's not perfect. It's better than nothing. Gareth is going to be watching Twitch for me because I can't do it all. So thank you, Gareth. And welcome to the open hour on October 22nd. I am Sage Robbins. I am the program manager for Salt Open and standing in as a community manager. I think I know what I'm doing. Don't believe me. You can believe me, I promise. Let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to talk about just some general updates, what we tend to call housekeeping. We do have a docs clinic today. I'm just going to give some information about that. Of course, SaltConf, existing steps, and then we'll go to question and answer. So general updates, magnesium was released yesterday, woohoo! Though we will be doing a point release and we know that there are some issues that exist. We are watching those come in, be triaging those and addressing those in the point release. More critical will get addressed first, of course. Also, we want to announce that we were probably gonna, we're going to change members to outside contributors because we want to give more access in GitHub. And in order to do that, we need to change some people. So this may affect your private repo forks. So simply letting people know in 2 weeks after the 5th, we will start doing this. We'll announce the actual date once we know that, but want to give people that heads up. Any questions?
What are these access changes? What are they part of?
One of the things that we would like to do is to move over to a newer billing plan with GitHub. And since we're open source, I think that that's probably free, which is cool. And that way we can also use a permission that's in there that's called triage permission. And that would give some people some access to help us do PR reviews as well as triage and just helping us generally with issues in the backlog. So we'd like to take advantage of some of those features in GitHub, but we would need to change some of the way what we're doing today and some of the processes.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Great question. Anything else?
Not regarding that, no.
Okay. So today we do have the documentation. It's actually the clinic. Should change my slide. I will update that. We do have these same time on Wednesday or on Thursdays. It's 2 p.m. US Mountain Time. Today will be a clinic, and then we'll skip a week for SaltConf, and then we'll have another clinic, and then we'll have the working group after that. So the next working group won't be until the 12th of November. They do have different Zoom IDs to keep those separated, and they will be live streamed on Twitch. It looks like I gave you a calendar link, but it's cut off here. Well, I'll work on that. Derek, do you have anything to say about Docs Clinic?
I believe Elisa's running that today, and today is going to be Git specific stuff with contributing, kind of an extension of the first Docs Clinic, where the first one was about contributing within GitHub and finding that pathway of going from a docs page to the docs file source or Python doc strings and working with pre-commit and the likes, while I believe Elisa's Docs Clinic today is going to go more over, I skipped over entirely the Git prerequisites pretty much, and I believe she's going to be going through that for the docs working for the clinic.
Awesome. Yeah, our closed captioning is not perfect. Did it say salt conf? That's fun. Yeah, way to go. Conf.
Oh yeah, it still does.
Well, at least it's funny. It's like conference. Conf.
It is my struggle for salt.
All right. Well,
Actually, it's quite bad. Kampf is German for war.
yes, I'm familiar. So, SaltConf 20 is Thursday the 29th. You can see everything at saltconf.com. And here is sort of a brief agenda. We are going to be doing some really interesting things here. I hope people will join us. This is a really great event. Doing this virtually will be very interesting. I don't know if we've actually ever done a SaltConf.
You think it might be a struggle? I'm sorry, it's a bad joke.
Oh man. But I think this is going to be really great. Tom, if you have anything you want to say, or Jeff, or anybody else that's speaking, if you want to do a plug, feel free.
Yeah, we've got a ton of presentations coming up. We're also really excited to have some special guests from VMware. And we're going to have also a guest appearance from Joe Beda, one of the creators of Kubernetes. This is going to be a fantastic SaltConf. And I'm personally giving a whole litany of presentations, and they will be, of course, recorded and made available shortly after the conference ends. So nobody can give me grief about giving presentations at the same time they're giving a presentation like I normally get at SaltConf.
Nice. Yeah, I think this is going to be great. Encourage everybody to be there. Any questions about it? About the virtual event or speakers?
It's also free to attend for anybody.
Yes. And we'll all be there. Shiny, happy faces. It gets that one right. I like that.
So it's just a one-day event then?
It is. It's a one-day event, all day long. So next, the current SALT enhancement proposals that are open. I gave you one link to all of them, and then I just list them here. I am looking to assign these to individuals to shepherd them through or shepherd them through. And I don't think that I've actually done that except for one, and we'll be doing that throughout this week and trying to push those through. Does anybody have any specific questions here? Anything anybody wants to go over? We are still working through quite a few comments on each individual step. I know that I am behind on that, and I'll be doing some catch-up work there today and tomorrow. No questions? Okay, we are at the discussion and Q&A portion of our meeting. Are there any specific questions? We're open to anything to talk about here. I mean, mostly. We kind of like to talk about salt. It's kind of our favorite topic.
This is not really related to a current release, but I noticed in some of the older releases that were still packaged for Python 2, it looks like there's a PS util that's packaged, but it is like extremely old. And so what happens is when you install Salt, when you bootstrap like a 2019.2 release cycle, one of those releases, you end up because it's named Python-PSUtil, and then like there's like a Python 2-PSUtil that's actually packaged in EPEL. Like that'll get pulled in if EPEL's there, which it is on if you run Salt Bootstrap. So essentially, that old PSUtil we're packaging never gets installed. It doesn't end up getting installed. So I don't know if that's something that is, if I haven't checked to see because we don't use Python 3 yet here. I haven't checked to see if that's something that's carried forward into newer releases, but it's something that we might want to look into.
Yeah, definitely. I was actually waiting for Pedro to pipe up. I thought he was coming off of mute, so it's giving him a chance, but maybe
I
not.
literally just discovered this, or else I would have had an issue
Sure.
already created to reference. So sorry about the lack of preparation there.
No problem.
So
Just
about packaging, I'm probably not the best person to talk about that because I'm not involved in the process.
sure. I just thought
haven't
you were.
been so far.
Hey, I actually have a question about Salt Enterprise, and I'm not sure if it's the right place to ask it.
Well, I guess you can ask and we can attempt to find out. I don't know that we will have all the details, but we might.
Yeah, the thing is, we actually evaluated like Salt Enterprise for ourselves, and we liked some features, and that was a showstopper for us. And I kind of wonder, does it has some kind of maybe semi-public roadmap or anything? I mean, we kind of in the dark here, so like we cannot onboard it right now, and we are not sure if like the features what we're interested in even in plans and something like this.
I did think that we had a more public roadmap available. I can follow up there and see where that is exactly. Jeff, do you have an exact answer on that?
I will also have to follow up with Alex on that.
Yeah, let us follow up, Carl, and we'll get back with you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask a question about the Windows issue?
Sure.
Okay. I'm trying to create a series of Salt calls over the not the command line Salt API, but the web, and then use the utils in order to translate those into Salt commands. And I'm having a problem with file dot the file modules on Windows. I can reliably copy a file with file.copy, but when I use file.getHash, the Windows machine does not always respond to the request. It's not like it returns the wrong hash, or it doesn't even return system not responding. It just doesn't respond. And I'm wondering, is there is there something I need to check inside of my Windows minions or my my server settings to allow for differences in Windows deployments? Am I just crazy? So that is my question.
Sure. Shane, go.
Oh, you could try increasing the timeout on the minion. If you're on the CLI, you can do a -T 20 or 30 -T space 30. I've had to do that on Windows minions. They tend to return a little slower. I'm not sure if that applies to API though. I've never done anything through the Salt API.
Okay, so that's something that I'll set that up in the Windows minions.
Yeah, I think there's a config option in the minion config, and I think it's just called timeout. Let me see.
Okay, roger that. Thank you.
Yeah, other questions?
Regarding that issue with packaging, are we still doing, are packages being tracked, I guess packaging related issues being tracked in the main bug tracker? Or I know they renamed SaltStack at some point, right? I just want to make sure I'm recording it in the correct place.
Yeah, go ahead and put it in the main Salt repo in GitHub. And if we need to create either a second issue or transfer it, we'll do it from there. I think it's better to put everything in that main repo.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions?
That config option is actually on the master. So you change your master config timeout to
Okay.
3. And then your master will wait long enough for the minion to respond.
Okay, and so that would apply to all minions. There's not a Windows specific version of that, and increasing the timeout would not negatively impact performance for other Salt actions.
No, it'll return as soon as it gets the returns back if it's a Linux box, but it will wait longer for a Windows box.
You can,
Awesome.
I believe you can pass a timeout in your API call though. That there's an argument for your API call, I believe.
Is that per module, or is that a basic function of the just API itself?
It's just in the, I believe it's just in the actual API call itself. I don't have an example in front of me right now, but yeah, I know what we ended up doing is because we do a lot of API stuff, traffic, waiting for results actually sets up a lot of pollers, and it's it ends up being a much bigger drain on resources. We ended up starting to use the async clients, and then when you do an async job, you get back the job ID, and then you could we just pull for it later. But
I just pasted a link to the docs in the chat that talks about timeout with the API.
Cool.
Great, thank you for that. And I'll look up the async stuff as well.
Yeah, basically the name of the client would just be like local _async or runner _async instead of local or runner, whatever you're using for. Otherwise, I believe the implication is the same, and then you just get back the job ID as part of the return.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Snail jokes. It doesn't pick up snail jokes. Oh, it said snacks for a minute. Okay. Snail jokes are kind of fun, but hey. I did want to say that I think I announced this in a couple of places, but I want to announce it here, and I should probably broadcast this more readily. I know that the videos have not been uploaded to YouTube. We're actually having problems getting into that account right now, and working on getting that fixed. And then there will be a whole slew of videos uploaded. So I apologize that I'm unable to do that, and looking forward to that being corrected ASAP.
Is that part of the reason why the logo disappeared, or is that because someone's about to post up a new logo?
Great question. I have no idea.
YouTube channel. It just mysteriously disappeared one day recently.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I can't access it. I don't know if anybody took it down, and I don't have any information on that. So no.
Okay, but you're going to try and use the same channel, so we don't have to look somewhere else for the stuff like VMware Salt.
As far as I know, yes, that'll be the same channel.
Okay.
And I do hope to have prior communication for any changes like that, so that you guys are aware. We're blasting that communication prior. This time, no changes have been communicated to us. Just simply can't access it. don't know what happened there. Maybe it was a change to an ownership. Hopefully we find out and we get it fixed soon.
What is it that changed again? Can you say that again?
Oh, I don't know. Ownership, maybe?
What changed ownership?
The YouTube branded account.
Oh, okay.
And the logo disappeared is what he was saying.
Yeah. Yeah, mostly I wanted to tell you that it's not that I'm ignoring it. It's that I can't get in there. And as soon as I can, I'll be posting some videos and updating some meeting notes with those links and making sure people have those. They're available. Any other questions? Excuse me.
I do have a very terrible joke.
Please tell.
So why did Darth Vader shy away from a crucifix-shaped lock? He finds your lock of faith disturbing.
Ouch.
Okay. Thank you.
Nice dissection and Q&A.
Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. I should probably change that. I can type, choose not to.
I have one little question about the amount of pull requests on GitHub. It's enormous. It's like, what did I see, 500 or something?
Yeah, have you seen our backlog of issues? 1.7K.
Yeah, 1,000 issues and 500 pull requests. That's
almost 600. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. Can't find my window. Oh yeah, here it is. It's almost 600. It's a lot. Is that
It's a big project.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Well, I think several months ago it was over 1,000, wasn't it?
Yes, that's
The
correct.
pull request.
Right, I was going to say, we've made considerable progress getting those numbers down.
We have actually.
Well,
I didn't.
So a lot of those are ported PRs from the other branches. At one point, we were down to around 300 pull requests, and then we did the code jams where we're porting more PRs, and that went way up again.
That's correct. And we've actually sat on those for just a little bit because the majority that are left that are sitting there need to have tests written. And those are open for anybody to write tests on those. In fact, I could probably label them as needs help or something else if that is helpful to people. You can actually go, there's a label that is called needs test case. You want to search by that label. If you wanted to do those, please feel free. Those are open to people to pick up. And we will be looking at, in the next release cycle, to do another code jam and a docs jam where we attempt to get those merged. But you know, it's kind of like dishes and laundry. It's never really ending. It goes up and down.
Okay. I didn't remember the numbers from last time or several months ago. So, but if you're not worried, I'm not worried. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I think that it's something that we are constantly looking at, sort of like the backlog, constantly looking to groom it to figure out where we are, what needs to be done, and how we can accomplish that.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, as mentioned, is just the tests and all those PRs that need to be merged.
Mm-hmm. We actually have a project board out there, and I think it has a column in it for those. Or you can sort on the label and PRs port to master. So we changed our branch, our branch name, and had a lot of things that had been put to the other branch develop that needed to be ported. And we're still working through that. And at that time, we didn't require tests, and now we do. So we also have some extra work there in order to make that more stable.
Yeah, there are 144 with the label master port, and if I add needs test case, that is 93 of them. So, out of the 585 pull requests, once we get those down, that's, under 400 or under 500 rather.
Yeah, and I think that project board, we started at about 1,000 PRs. So we've really come quite far, and we realized that we're at sort of a stalemate and that we need to make some progress there. And I think we're going to dedicate some resources and time to that.
Yeah. And, for those of you who are, you're interested in contributing in that way, but you maybe feel like you don't know how to write tests, or you're not really sure where to start, because some of these places, maybe many of them, there are no tests currently. And so that's one of the big reasons that I started doing this test clinic on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where I just stream on Twitch. And if you've got a question, then I'll do my best to answer it, help you write tests, figure out where to get started. I've done it for several people so far. And it's not limited to this effort, but if you are interested, especially in this effort, this is a great place to come and do that. And then if there are no other questions, then I just kind of pick something out of this backlog and work my way through adding tests to it. So yeah, if you are interested, then by all means do come to those Tuesdays and Thursdays. I do it on Tuesday afternoon and Thursday morning, so that we have kind of a nice spread, because I know we have contributors all over the globe. So I figured that was the best way to get people, get it available to as many people as possible without me being up at 3 a.m.
Yes, and you do those on Twitch, right? You stream. There's not a Zoom call. I think Twitch is enough. If we needed a Zoom call, I guess we could. And those are available on our community calendar, and I have a link to that in the beginning slides up here. It's down here to the calendar. You can subscribe to that calendar, and it has all of our events. So it'll also have our docs clinic that we have every other week. We're going to have that this week, and then the docs working group, and then all the other working groups. There's Windows, there's Mac, there's lots. Those are open to community members to join those if you have an interest. We're actually thinking about looking at another one for maybe Kubernetes modules, and interested if people wanted to start one, they welcome to. Please get with me or number of the core team members. We would love to see efforts there. And those have actually been fairly successful. It's been successful enough that we've started a docs clinic as well. And I think today's our second one, so that's going to be great, and looking forward to it.
How do I find this calendar of events?
I have a link here, and I'll send it out as well. Grab it.
Yeah, could you post it in the chat and in Twitch maybe?
Yeah, Gareth, can you put that in Twitch as well?
Awesome, thank you.
That's a public Google Calendar. Thank you, Gareth. And I know that it's a little strange to subscribe to it. I don't remember the details of it. It's a little bit hidden, but it is a calendar that you can subscribe to and put on your own Google Calendar.
Down at the bottom right-hand corner, there's a tiny little plus. It's not like a button or anything. It's just a plus, and it says Google, I think, on it. And that's the thing that you click to add it to your calendar. It took me a significant amount of time to find that.
Yeah, I think it's a small plus button, and you can add a calendar to other calendars. Or, yep. We try to keep that up to date.
I know it's off topic. Is there a way for Outlook to subscribe to a Google Calendar? I know it's a Salt and not a calendar service, and I can go look that up myself if it's
there is
out of scope. Okay, I'll find it. Thank you.
Yeah, I actually had to do it recently. So you can do it with a URL in the settings. So if you're in
Perfect.
Office 365 and you go to Outlook All Settings, it's there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I think one of the concerns would be if you have a PR that you're wanting to get in that has tests and everything, that it would get really easy to be lost in a big pile of 600 PRs.
Yes. And I encourage people to reach out to us and come to the open hour if they're having those problems, and reach us on Slack or IRC. I'm also on Keybase. Lots of ways to get in touch with us. You can reach us at core@saltstack.com. It's an email that comes to, I think, almost everybody on this call that's here. And we are happy to understand what's going on with those. You can also mention us by our GitHub handles if there's specific problems. And we encourage you guys to look at the test runs that are failing, and if that's a problem, or if there's something else that's just not getting attention, please let us know. We sift through those and attempt to do that as best we can. We are a small team and we do what we can. We miss things too. We've also been working on some automation to try to get things labeled correctly, as well as changing our templates so that that's more intuitive. We will continue to iterate on that process to make that more friendly. Hopefully that'll make things easier as well.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sure. I just had like a question regarding the duplicating things like in Salt. So let me start off with the statement what archive extracted state is garbage and need to be rewritten from scratch. None of us fault, just happens from time to time. And the thing is, me personally, I try to update it to kind of support some of the problems what we solve like in my company. I kind of succeed, but not really. So I added like additional logic which we needed. But in the end, because of the architecture of the state, we still had problems with it. And currently, I just wrote like a custom state which calls different state. By the way, it's really cool what Salt support with. I was really impressed. But basically, I implemented this logic, and we drop it with logic like locally. So that's it. We don't need it anymore. And I'm kind of ashamed what it's like merged in Salt. I don't need it anymore. I have no idea if anybody pick up it or not. And if it was my local project, I would just remove it like at this point. But I'm kind of not sure what to do in this situation. I can leave it as is. I mean, it's working, but I'm not sure if it's like really useful in general.
It's a custom module, is that what you said?
No, it's an archive extracted state, and I added like additional logic to it called like skipped list verify or something like this. And my point is, what it is merged. It's already in Salt, but from my point of view, it's not good, and this state is already bad. And if it was up to me, I would remove it.
Sure.
But it's not up to me. It's like an open source project. I'm just not sure if I should do something about it at all. Should I create merge request with deprecation of this feature, or just remove it, or leave it be? I don't know.
Yeah, I would go through a deprecation path on it. Document it in the docs that this isn't a good idea to use. Put a deprecation warning on it, and then eventually remove it.
Yeah, so to open a PR to do those, you could do that in probably one PR or two. Fine.
Kind of my point, my problem is that I have no idea, and probably nobody have no idea if anybody uses this logic at all.
Right.
And
so that's why we would put the deprecation warning in, is to let people know that.
All right, makes sense.
We don't have any usage statistics like that.
Yeah.
That's a thing that we've discussed and talked about, and would be definitely a nice to have, but there's also, huge privacy questions around that. So that's just the state of everything. So yeah, I think the best approach that we've come up with is just the deprecation warnings. So we leave those in place for a minimum of a year, and then we'll go ahead and remove the feature if nobody, we don't get a lot of pushback and complaints like, "Whoa, why are you deprecating this?"
Yeah, and if it warrants a larger discussion, we could open a SEP to remove. I think a deprecation path is the way to go, but there's other options as well if it's something bigger. I guess it would kind of depend, kind of leave that up to you to start with one thing, and then we'll go from there and see what it is. I think that deprecation path is probably a first step.
Yeah, right. I just kind of hope nobody uses it really, but I get the idea.
Yeah. Well, 525 execution modules. I'm sure there's a few out there that may not be being used, and maybe a few custom states that only a few people use. I'm sure it's there. Salt is extensive and it can do a lot of things. So it's always interesting for us to hear how the community is using it, because there's things we just haven't thought of. We're like, oh, wow, okay, tell me more. Tell me more about what you're doing, because it's just so interesting to us.
And kind of on topic of this, like I know there is like some thing going on regarding the rewriting models, like in states for like POP with like POP approach. And I kind of wonder what's like the plan with states like, for example, archive extracted. Is it going to be like transitioned as is? And right now it's like 1,000 or 2,000 like lines of logic without any like models use it, just pure logic from top to bottom. Or it's going to be like splitted, like refactor it, or I just wonder what's the possible approach here. Or it will probably maybe not like touched at all. I just don't know how it's supposed to this migration happen from like, let's say, current salt to the pop salt.
I mean, even regardless of pop, if it's something that it clearly needs to be refactored, I mean, we're definitely open to taking a refactor. Any kind of huge module like that, where, like you said, it's thousands of lines or whatever, that definitely sounds, without even having looked at it, it sounds like something that could use a refactor.
Yeah, in general, how we're moving things to pop, like state files. I thought that was the question. Or just in general. Do I have that right? Or
yeah, I mean, it's a specific case of more general question. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, because we don't currently have any plans to move execution modules and states over to POP. We want to be able to call some of the new POP projects from SALT. So we can call item from SALT and things like that. And we may consider moving grains over, but we're not, the lift is just too heavy. And I also worry about, frankly, I worry about the burden that would place on the POP project as well as POP projects, because that would just suck them into trying to support a bunch of legacy SALT systems. And I feel like that would slow down a lot of our forward-thinking projects from that end anyway. So right now, the plan isn't that we replace or migrate execution modules and states to POP-based constructs. Instead, it is that new POP projects are callable from within the existing SALT framework.
We also do have on our roadmap trying to come up with ways to pull out certain modules and states into their own repositories. That's something that we'll be starting some early work on in the next couple releases, I think. The main challenge there is making sort of the template and the testing of like the template of like, how would you go about doing that? And then if we do that, how is everything going to get tested properly? And we've been thinking about that for quite some time and have made progress with PyTest in that direction to be able to test things that aren't a part of things that don't live in the Salt repository, but be able to test them against the same sort of test fixtures and everything that we use inside of Salt.
One more question, if I may. Some time ago, I believe SaltStack folks talk about the kind of the same separation what happened in Ansible when there is like a core type of like states and models which is supported by like Ansible core team or something like this, and like community models which is community supported. I think Salt talked about the same thing some time ago. Is it still on the table? I'm just wondering.
In theory, it is on the table, yes. Yeah. But we need to get some of this preliminary work done before we can even start talking about it.
Yeah, and the idea behind that is that we don't want to just take these modules out of Salt, even though they are probably not used by many people. Some people use it, so we don't want to take them into their own repository and just leave it. We want to have an infrastructure set up, or at least a template for that, so that anyone willing to maintain it can do so and actively test it and not have it abandoned. So that's what Daniel is mentioning. We still have some issues to cover before we actually start thinking about extracting some of these modules out. And until we find an easy and a good way to do that outside of Salt, there's no point on even deciding which is the best module to take out or stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that we've actually had the discussions more in the opposite direction of that, of what is core to Salt, and identify that first rather than the other way around, because that seems like a harder test to do. And that's about as far as we've gotten. We haven't even identified all of those. It's very preliminary, but yeah, we've talked about it often actually, but we have not made progress to move forward just yet, as we've had, like they said, other things that we've got to tackle first. But great question.
To follow up on that, is there any available documentation that would suggest the thought process on where that's going? And also, I must be new to Salt because I'm not aware of POP projects. I was wondering, is there something I can read up about that?
Absolutely. I don't have that handy, but maybe.
Yeah, so POP projects don't live on GitHub, they live on GitLab. I will paste a link to the GitLab organization where that lives. There's even a POP book which introduces you to the POP approach. Oh, there you go. There's a link to the POP book. So if you want to get acquainted with POP, that's a good way to start. And everything POP related will be on GitLab and not GitHub.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks for the links.
Yep, an item, read the docs. Thanks, Derek. I appreciate that. Yeah, and Pedro's got the link in the chat as well. GitLab.com/saltstack/pop/.
Okay. What about any has there been any kind of public definition or announcement about the separation of, I think what Carol was discussing earlier, the separation of core salt features into, its own either product or repo?
No, actually, I don't think that there is anything that's public about that.
Yeah,
Tom?
there isn't a public announcement because there isn't a decision.
Okay, got it.
Just
Fair enough.
something talked about, thought about a little, but that's it.
Okay, so nothing is near and impending, and I will not in the next few months need to be rewriting my software.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
That's where a lot of the concern comes in. We don't want to do any rug pulling. We don't want to make anything difficult. The last thing we want to do is make it so that somebody upgrades Salt and all their stuff doesn't work anymore. We really want to avoid doing that. And that's a much higher level mandate at this point, that we should not be breaking states. We should not be purposefully introducing problems into people's ability to continually run Salt. And that's where starting to pull large numbers of modules out begins to issue challenges and problems. And so yeah, we haven't decided to do that. It's just something which has been discussed occasionally.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna sleep a little bit easier tonight then. I had a little heart attack there at first, but that's all right.
Good.
Thank you.
No, when you think about, when we talk about being able to have modules as separate projects and things like that, one of the things where it might make sense in the future is if there's a new module that's being introduced into Salt, not an existing one, we could say, hey, why don't you try making this as a separate project? If it doesn't necessarily make sense to live in the core, because we have a lot of modules that don't really make sense to live in the core.
Right.
But that would be a reasonable approach, is like for new functionality, and then test, make sure everything works, make sure all the testing works, make sure it can easily be installed. And then at some point down the road, it might make sense to pull out some modules, but we have no plans right now.
Would it also, I'm sorry. So would it also then be a method by which to vet which new features eventually become core features? Is there a possible roadmap in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, we're not really talking about features as much as execution modules and states.
Okay. Here, yeah. You have put the better words to my
As far as features go, we have a set process, Salt enhancement proposals, where people can propose features. They can be discussed before anyone starts working on implementing them, or if they do start working on implementing them, they can be discussed, in the SEP, and you can provide code examples and people can discuss architecture decisions there before features actually get worked on.
Okay. Nice. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and that's a new process for us, new-ish. We're still kind of working out how the process flows, and going to spend some time on that in the next release cycle, hopefully giving that some more attention. It also has its own channel in the community Slack called, #SEP, and probably just needs a little bit more tweaking and iteration on how we do those, and what goes into that, and timing and things like that. And I think that it's got some pretty good documentation out there, but we just need to follow it. So we're going to do that. Great questions today. Does anybody have anything else?
So
Do you have a snail joke?
No, let's hear it. I don't have one.
Someone said that there might be snail jokes. It seems like a
Daniel
really
is good at those.
All right.
Let's give him some time to think about it. So I have a topic. Magnesium will have Tiamat packages as beta. We've been addressing some issues that popped up while we were working on creating those, namely extending Salt by adding extra Python packages once the TMF build was on the system through pip.installed. So we overcome at least the known issues so far. We are able to extend Salt. There is one thing that is not addressed for the beta releases of the TMF builds for Magnesium, which is salt's state pip.installed will install into the Salt Python environment. What this means is if for example, you're using states to extend Salt by adding extra Python packages so that you have extra modules at hand, then it's fine. If you're using Salt states, namely pip.installed, to manage a third-party application, Python application, so you want to install Python dependencies into the system Python, then that's where we would have to be explicit. Maybe I'm adding more confusion than explaining. Pip.installed allows you to specify to which Python you want to install Python packages. The way we've shipped Salt until today was using the system Python. So whether you wanted to extend the Salt support with a Python package, or you wanted to manage your own project by installing a Python package, it would always use the system package. The TMAT builds that we do includes Python. And so what changes here is that when you use your states to do a pip.installed, it will extend Salt and not extend the system Python. We've had some internal discussion about what should be the least expected behavior. And I think the least expected behavior is if you want to do a pip.installed, and because Salt is used to manage your system, the least expected behavior is to install a Python package into the system Python. So to those who are here, I guess I'm just asking for confirmation if this discussion that we had is valid or not. Is that what you're expecting Salt would do?
From the Windows perspective, it was just the opposite, at least for me, was that when I pip installed something and I didn't pass a specific environment, it was updating our binary that we package.
Yes, because with Salt, and for that matter, macOS packages include their own Python. So if you don't specify, that's the behavior. And that's the behavior that users will see when they use TMAT. Well, a TMAT build of Salt.
So then they would have to specify the external environment explicitly.
If, for example, you're trying to add a Python package to the system Python, yes.
Well, and in the case of Windows and Mac, they don't come with Python. Well, Mac does, but Windows doesn't.
Yeah, I guess this question is more addressed to those managing Linux systems, which until now haven't had their own full distribution of Python with Salt.
I suppose you'd have to do that on Windows in the rare use case where Python actually is installed as a separate application in the Windows system, correct?
Correct. But I believe that since that has always been the behavior on Windows, the user managing that box would be expecting that. And so they would know that they would have to pass the Python path for their third-party project. Okay, no input is also not that bad. Means that our assumption might be correct.
Does this is some of this conversation inside of that SEP actually, Pedro, or is this more so within like Tiamat pip or in a different repo?
No, this conversation. So I've been addressing the pip issues, and I'm late, and I should have added my own comments to the problems that have been solved to the SEP. This particular question will be added to the SEP, at least will be commented in the SEP to gather additional feedback to see about the expected behavior of pip that installed. And ultimately, it should be reflected in the SEP itself as a question and an answer. So I'm past you. I should have updated that today, but I've been addressing some other issues that I found today. But likely tomorrow, I will be going through the whole SEP, the questions that I've been asked, those that still haven't got an answer, and in particular, those that address pip. And there are a few questions about that, and I will be answering those, and also making this same question that I did here today.
Awesome, thanks.
Thanks, Pedro. Well, we are just about at time. I hate to cut people off, but I do want to keep to our schedule. I think that's also really important. So thank you everybody for joining. This has been a really good discussion, really good question and answer session, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.